I never thought a quiet piece of land could start a war. My name is Daniel Harper, and the 43 acres sitting just outside of Brookfield County had been in my family for nearly 70 years. My grandfather bought that land after returning from the war. He used to say, "Land doesn't betray you. People do." I didn't understand what he meant back then. I do now. The property sat right behind the pristine neighborhood of Willow Creek Estates, a perfectly manicured suburban dream governed by the iron-fisted Willow Creek Homeowners Association. Willow Creek Homeowners Association, white fences, identical mailboxes, lawns trimmed to military precision, trash cans invisible by 7 a.m. sharp. And behind it all, my land, untouched, wild, private. The HOA had tried for years to buy it from my father. They offered insulting numbers. They claimed they wanted to preserve community harmony. What they really wanted was expansion. More houses, more fees, more control. My father refused every time. When he passed, the land came to me. And that's when things escalated. 3 months after inheriting the property, I received a certified letter from the HOA's legal department. It claimed that due to historical boundary ambiguity, a portion of my land legally belonged to Willow Creek Estates. Ambiguity. I hired a surveyor immediately. 3 weeks later, the results came back. Not only was there no ambiguity, the HOA's new fence was 8 feet inside my property line. They had moved it. Quietly. Deliberately. I sent them the survey report with a polite demand to remove the fence. They didn't respond. Instead, they started construction. It started with trucks, then bulldozers, then concrete. I drove out to my property one morning and nearly crashed my car. Foundations had been poured. Framing was already up on multiple structures. 28 condo units. 28. On my land. I stood there in disbelief as workers moved like ants across what had once been untouched earth. I approached the site manager. He showed me permits. Stamped. Approved. By the county. I felt my stomach drop. Had they bribed someone? Or had someone made a catastrophic mistake? Either way, this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was theft. That afternoon, I scheduled a meeting with the president of the HOA. Her name was Margaret Calloway. Margaret Calloway, perfectly styled silver hair, pearl necklace, smile sharp enough to cut glass. She welcomed me into the HOA office like we were old friends. "Daniel," she said smoothly, "we assumed the land transfer paperwork had been finalized." "What paperwork?" I asked. "The annexation agreement your father discussed." "My father never agreed to annex anything." She leaned back calmly. "We have documentation suggesting otherwise." "Show me." She smiled. "That will be handled through legal channels." That's when I realized something terrifying. They thought they had already won. My lawyer, Marcus Bennett, was not easily rattled. Marcus Bennett, but when he saw the annexation agreement, even he went silent. It bore my father's signature, dated 2 weeks before his death. I stared at it for a long time. "It's fake," I whispered. Marcus nodded slowly. "It doesn't match his known signatures. But proving forgery takes time." Meanwhile, construction continued. Walls went up. Roofs were installed. Advertisements appeared online. Luxury living expansion at Willow Creek. Pre-sales had already begun. Families were putting down deposits. They were selling homes that legally stood on my land. That's when I made my decision. I didn't just want justice. I wanted consequences. I said nothing publicly. I didn't confront Margaret again. Instead, Marcus filed an emergency injunction. We also filed a criminal complaint regarding suspected fraud and forgery. Then I did something else. I secured demolition contracts. If the court ruled in my favor, I wanted no delays. I hired Titan Demolition Services. Titan Demolition Services, their equipment alone looked like it could level a small city. The owner, Ray Delgado, asked me one question. "You sure about this?" "If the judge signs," I said, "bring everything." He nodded. The courtroom was packed. HOA board members sat stiffly in tailored suits. Prospective condo buyers filled the back rows. Margaret looked unbothered. Until the forensic handwriting expert testified. The signature didn't just look different. It was conclusively forged. Different stroke pressure. Different slant. Different baseline habits. The date ink was chemically inconsistent with the rest of the document. The judge's expression hardened by the minute. Then came the county permit official. Under oath, he admitted the boundary documents submitted by the HOA were altered copies. Not clerical errors. Altered. That word changed everything. By 4:17 p.m., the ruling came down. The annexation agreement was void. The construction permits were invalid. The land legally belonged to me. And the structures were unauthorized developments. The judge gave the HOA 7 days to cease activity and resolve removal. Margaret's calm mask finally cracked. 7 days passed. They didn't remove a single nail. In fact, they continued interior finishing. Maybe they thought I would negotiate. Maybe they thought I wouldn't follow through. They were wrong. At 6 a.m. sharp on Monday morning, Titan Demolition rolled in. Excavators. Cranes. Concrete crushers. Residents of Willow Creek woke up to the sound of diesel engines. Margaret arrived in a panic. "You can't do this." I handed her the court order. Signed. Stamped. Enforceable. She tried to threaten me with countersuits. But fraud destroys credibility. And hers was gone. By noon, 3 units were reduced to rubble. Buyers flooded the HOA office demanding refunds. Local news crews arrived. Headlines exploded. HOA builds illegal condos on private land. Criminal investigations began. Margaret Calloway resigned within 48 hours. Forgery charges followed. The county official who approved the permits was suspended pending investigation. By the end of the week, all 28 condos were nothing but debris. My land was scarred, but it was mine. 6 months later, the HOA filed for bankruptcy. Insurance refused coverage due to intentional misconduct. Homeowners in Willow Creek saw their property values plummet. And then they came to me, not Margaret. Not the board. The actual residents. They asked if I would consider selling the land, fairly this time, for a public green space. A park. No condos. No expansion. Just trees and walking trails. I thought about my grandfather. Land doesn't betray you. People do. But sometimes people learn. I agreed. At market value. No discounts. The sale funded a conservation easement and a legal trust in my father's name. Today, the land behind Willow Creek isn't concrete. It's a park, a reminder, and at the entrance stands a small plaque. Harper Preserve, protected land. Margaret Calloway's name. It's remembered for something else. Fraud convictions. Probation. Public disgrace. As for me, I still own property, but more importantly, I own peace.